here so that we can record this for posterity. And I'm so glad to see that we have some folks joining us, some new folks. Maybe quick show of hands. How many of you have been on a Success Meetup Tips, Tricks, and Q&A session in the past? Some of you have been, I recognize a few familiar faces and names. That's great. For those of you that have been here, thanks for coming back. For those of you, this is your first time, hopefully you'll come back again. These sessions are designed to really kind of take your use of KV Core and our products here, product suite at Inside Real Estate, and incorporate it into maybe some more sometimes general, sometimes basic, or even sometimes more advanced tactics and strategies. So we always like to pick a topic and then dive as deep as we can into those strategies and those tactics. And I like to show people how you can use and leverage KV Core to get that job done better, faster, and smarter. So I'm one of those trainers that likes to chat with people. So this is not a session where you want to be multitasking, because I definitely may volunteer you, as Rose has found out. I definitely like to chat and engage with the audience. If you are in a place where you've got a lot of background noise, or maybe you've got a sleeping baby, or you're in an office full of folks and you just can't chat, that's okay too. I'll never throw anybody under the bus. Just let me know. You can always use the chat box too if you've got any questions. So that's enough of my housekeeping items. Let's jump right into our topic today. It is called Lead CPR, re-engaging those cold leads. Now, Rose mentioned she's been in the business for quite some time, and we were chatting a little bit earlier about she's got a list of folks that she needs to, or she'd like to start re-engaging with, maybe strike up some new conversations with them. So how do we go about doing that? Where's a good place to start? So a couple things to keep in mind as we go through this topic is, it's always important to inspect what you expect, as they say. So measuring your success is something that I like to keep in the forefront whenever I'm approaching something new. So in this case, if your re-engagement strategy succeeds and you actually do start a new conversation with somebody, and you are, better yet, win them back into the conversation, and it creates that conversation, or better yet, conversion and a deal, that's success, right? Definitely easy to measure. But I also want to remind you that sometimes it's also the strategy in and of itself will provide success in ways you hadn't expected. So if your re-engagement strategy doesn't win them back, or doesn't win all of them back, and you get some people that tell you, no, take me off your list, or go pound sand, that's not a loss. That's still success. Why? Because now you can go in with confidence and effectively move that person to the next appropriate status, which might be as far as maybe archiving them. And we'll talk a little bit about, what you do with those leads that you just still can't get a hold of, because I definitely have some opinions about that. So let's talk a little bit about what exactly lead CPR is, and who needs lead CPR? Who needs this type of re-engagement? How do you find them? How do you define in your mind or in your workday exactly who needs this type of re-engagement? We're also going to talk about a pro tip that I've used, a little strategy that I've used for a long time whenever I'm communicating pretty much with anybody, especially somebody that I'm trying to start a conversation with. I call it the 1-2 punch. And we're going to go over that as we walk through some of this. And the 1-2 punch is simply sending an engagement and sending a follow-up engagement. Using a series of conversations starters or icebreakers to engage with somebody. Now, I definitely want to go over some strategies, tactics. I'd love to hear from you what's working. Maybe we can brainstorm and take some of your experiences and add that to the mix as well. And I want to talk to you about a couple of pro tips and some tools that you can use in KV Core to help you not only find those unengaged leads, but also how you can automate and really put some of those re-engagements on autopilot for you, and even turbocharge those. All right, so fun fact, studies have shown it's actually easier to re-engage with an existing customer than it is to find a new customer, right? So you will definitely be leaving some money on the table if you don't try and connect with those people. It's a lot of people, it's kind of like the dog chasing their tail, right? You definitely want to be effective in what you're doing, but it's a lot easier to start with people that you know or have some sort of existing relationship or history or past with them. So definitely want to make sure that you are not skipping over this list just because you haven't heard from them in a while. So my question to you is, what do you define as a cold lead? Where is it that you draw that line in the sand? Is it somebody that you haven't heard from? Is it somebody that hasn't engaged with you? Is it somebody that just simply tells you to go pound sand? I'm not looking to buy a house right now. Is it somebody you haven't talked to in a week? Has it been a month, 2 months? Is it a year? What's your magic number? I want to know. So pop it in the chat. What do you define as a cold lead? Tell me what your definition is. And I'm going to go to the audience. So this is where I'm going to, Rose, let's start with you. I told you I was going to volunteer you. Let's use you first. Rose, what does your list look like?
Well, I would count a cold lead, a contact that I hadn't had any interaction with in probably a year or two, because I do try and do a mail out and things like that, but that's not necessarily that it's being reciprocal, that they're contacting me back. It's just there's been no real communication. Things go out, but nothing's coming back in. And so I think I'd probably say, a little longer than a year before I'd say, oh, they've gone cold completely,
Okay. Jason popped in, a lead with no interaction. Okay, that's somebody that you've never had a conversation with, right? So Jason, turn on your microphone. I've got a question for you. If you have a microphone.
Sure.
If you don't,
what's on your mind?
Hey, Jason. So my question to you is, where do you draw the line with how many times you communicate with those folks that you've had no interaction?
Usually 3 or 5.
3 to 5. Did you know that I read a study once that on average, it takes somebody a minimum of 12 times, 12 communications, 12 interactions with somebody before they'll even remember your name. Did you know that? Yeah, that's some pretty heavy stuff. So and that's just that's just for brand recognition and things like that. So, we know that's why if you look at our SMART campaigns that we spend a lot of time curating and cultivating, you'll see a lot of things going out at the beginning. You'll see a lot of open-ended, like re-engagement type communications, especially that new lead buyer SMART campaign that we've got, because that one, it has a lot of things happening in the first 5 days. We do that intentionally because, one, it's about speed to lead. We know that it's, the strike while the iron is hot, try and get to that lead first, because if they're searching, especially those online leads, if they're searching with you, they're searching with somebody else, right? So it's a matter of like who gets to them first stands the better chance of earning their business. But if you have somebody that has not had any communication with them, does that mean that they are a completely cold lead? Well, it's kind of that unknown. The unknown is that you don't know, because you don't know, maybe they're reading your materials. Maybe they're even sharing that information. Maybe they're talking about you have no idea because they haven't told it to you. You don't know what their level of interaction is. Maybe they're more of a passive lead where they're just not ready yet. So it's important to kind of,
someone who ghosts you?
Meaning like they've started a conversation and then they ghost you, like somebody you've already chatted with. Yeah,
Yes.
That happens too. That absolutely happens. So, at some point you have to recognize that there's, it's about volume as well, right? It's how are you effectively using the tools to communicate in mass so that you're not wasting your time doing it all onesie twosie. Rose, you had something you want to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to say that, sometimes it's just the individual, like myself working with a past client. I'll give you 2 examples. One, a past client was a pilot, a helicopter pilot. I got him set up. This was literally, 5 years previous that he'd bought into a condo and been sending him the cards and the newsletter, the mail out newsletter that we used to do and things like that. And nothing from him. But then, he got posted again. He called me and he said it was because I had sent him the calendar with the memo board calendar. So I'd sent him that. But then I had another one, also a military member, who I had sold them into this property literally 2 years ago, stayed in contact with them, took the pumpkin over at Halloween and the drop-by things and all of those things, and they literally listed with somebody else because they felt like this was a newer agent in the business and this agent needed a leg up.
Yeah,
So
there's definitely
sometimes
an
you lose
emotional
them.
factor there, right? Sometimes you lose
Yeah,
them. Even after the strongest efforts, you can still sometimes
yeah.
lose
I
them.
mean, we're even on Facebook together with their kids and the whole thing. I mean, there's definitely a connection there. But,
Yeah.
when it came to selling the house, they thought they were being kind by helping somebody else.
Right. And that's where we as professionals and as, that we treat this as a business. It's hard to do it because there's definitely some emotional undercurrents there, but that's definitely something to think about. So for me, here's what I think about when I think about who should be on my unengaged lead list. I think about using the facts that I have. There's definitely some discovery that needs to be made. So what you can do first to really identify who those unengaged leads are is to use the tools that you've got. So in KV Core, in the business analytics section, there is a whole little section under KV Core activity in the activity summary that has some stats on your unengaged leads. So let me show you where that is. In your KV Core, so this is my little demo dashboard right here, along the main menu down here along the left-hand side. This is a good place to start. Now, I'm sure if I asked each of you individually, you could probably tell me right off the top of your head a handful of people that probably have gone cold on you. But let's start with what we know. Let's do a little discovery first. So in the business analytics, right here under KV Core activity, there's some really great information that's right here that will allow you to use the data that's in your database. So right here at the top under activity summary, this is in the last 90 days. So this is a good thing to be checking on a regular basis. Now, this is not a downloadable report. So what I would suggest you do is to maybe create your own version or your own reporting sheet on this. And I would track this as part of my admin time. I would track this so I could monitor my success, because you should always measure, inspect what you expect, right? So right here under engaged leads, this right off the bat tells me that of the things that I should be sending out, and you should be sending these things out because these are high level pieces of content that are real estate related that can be automated. This is one way to just put that on autopilot for yourself. And so if you don't have your contacts set up on search alerts, market reports, or an active campaign, you're not leveraging the tools that you have to automate the things that can be automated, to free up your time so that you can focus on the things that can't be automated. We call that powering up your automations. So in Rose's case, she already gave a great example of how she earned somebody's business because she was doing something that the computer couldn't do. She was having personal communications with that person, sending out calendars. Now, maybe you had it automated to somewhat of a degree, but you were definitely sending out that personalized touch. So whether you're doing a pop by, stopping by somebody's house and dropping off a goodie for Halloween, just recognizing them at the holidays, inviting them to client engagements, or past client events, things like that. Those are things that a computer can't do. So these are the things that can. So this is a great way for me to do a little fact finding and see if I have any leads that are slipping through the cracks. So right off the bat, I can see here that I have 23 people that don't have search alerts. Now, it's kind of small right here, but there's a little arrow right next to this number. And if you click on this, it's going to take you right into your Smart CRM, right back up here to the Smart CRM. Remember, that's where your leads live. That's the big address book in KV Core. And it pulls up that predefined list of all of those people that don't have search alerts. So this is a list that I would really want to keep an eye on to make sure that these people are getting pieces of high value content. In this case, search alerts. That's a great way to stay engaged with your leads because you're sending them something of interest. And honestly, there's no excuse not to send a search alert out because everybody likes to look at properties. I mean, I personally love to look at $1 million mansions. Now, can I afford that? No, but I would love to look at $1 million mansions. So that's a great tactic or a strategy that I could use to send out to somebody who might like to just look at properties. That's just something everybody likes to look at $1 million properties. One of the most expensive properties in Los Angeles just sold for $100 million. I saw it in a search alert. That was a great re-engagement type of communication. So you can go through and work this list, and then you can set up your contacts that may be slipping through the cracks. So when we talk about setting up search alerts, remember those search alerts, market reports, and campaigns are all along the right-hand side of your contact record. So this is where you can go in and take action with your leads. And so if you have leads that are slipping through the cracks, at least consider sending them something of high value like a property alert. And this is a great place to introduce the 1-2 punch, because if I'm setting somebody up on a property alert, say it's, for example, somebody in my neighborhood. My neighborhood is personally where I do a lot of my business because it's my farm, and I intentionally work all of the people that are homeowners and renters in my neighborhood because I know most of them. I'm really familiar with the neighborhood. I consider myself the local expert. And I know that a lot of my neighbors are just like me, they're nosy neighbors, right? So I like to send them property alerts to keep them posted on what the activity is when people are putting their homes on the market. So I'll create a predefined property alert that is based on just the location where they live. So I'll go in and I'll do a polygon search. And let's just say I live here in Lake San Marcos. I'll do a polygon and I'll drill down right into the neighborhood, and I'll set it up so that it is including just that specific neighborhood. And by setting it up this way and sending it out to all my sellers and applying that selection there, and by the way, you can do 2. I don't know if you knew that or not, but you can actually do 2 polygons. So maybe this neighborhood also includes everything over here on this side of the road. You could include a separate selection here, and you can apply that. Once I set up and predefine this search alert, and I go to save it and set the alert or save and send it out, that's the first part of the 1-2 punch. Okay, I'm creating or preparing content, and then I'm going to go tell them about it, right? So then I'm going to go back into Mary, and if I had a phone number for her, this works especially well because I always like to tell them what I'm going to tell them and then go tell them what I told them. So in this case, I'd set up the property alert for Mary and I'd go send an email. And in that email, I would just let her know, hey, Mary, I don't know about you, but I love to look at $1 million properties. I don't know if that's something that's fun for you, but I thought I'd start sending you a list every month of $1 million mansions in your area. Or I noticed, maybe you'd like to see properties in your own neighborhood. Whatever the search alert parameters are, use that as your icebreaker. Even if they're not in the market to buy or sell right now, again, it's a good strategy to just start sending high value content. So that's something that you can do. Now, because this list is so important to me, it's a list of leads that may be slipping through the cracks because they're not getting that high value content that I can automate. One thing you might want to do is make sure that you're creating filters for these, because everything up here at the top, these are all my save filters. So one place to start when you're identifying who your cold leads are is to use the filters and leverage based on that lead's behaviors. So I don't know about you, but I personally think that my next paycheck is always going to come from these 3 categories: my prospects, my new leads, and my active leads. Now, that's not to say that my sphere will not definitely give me a referral now and again, because that happens all the time, right? Sometimes we get our best deals from people in our sphere. That's just a different group of people. But for our purposes, for lead engagement, these are the people that we don't really know, because remember, people in your sphere are people that you already have a relationship with. So you might send out different communications to them. But prospects, new leads, and active leads, I don't know them as well, right? So especially those new leads, because new leads are people that I really know the very least about. So I would create a list of, I call it my PNA list: prospect, new lead, active lead, my simple little acronym. Prospects, new leads, and active leads based on their behavior. This is already preset for me because I pulled it from that business analytics. These are the people that have no search alerts. So now I'm telling the system, okay, show me, drill down even further to this targeted list of prospects, new leads, and active leads that don't have search alerts. Now, if I really want to use my time wisely, I'm going to narrow it down even further and I'm going to use their contact details and identify only those folks that have an email address. Why is that? Because at minimum, they need to have an email address to send out these search alerts. It doesn't mean you can't send properties to people that you only have phone numbers for, and to text them out, but it's more of a manual process. And I want to start with automating as much as I can. So if I narrow down my list to those people that have an email, now I've got a list of people who are prospects, new leads, and active leads that have an email, because that's how we send out search alerts. They go out by email, that have no alerts. And instead of just creating a one-off list, I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a saved filter. Now, because their behaviors also have some other really interesting information in here, you could even narrow down the list further and say, you know what, let me really find that cold list and find those people who don't have search alerts, that are prospects, new leads, and active leads, that have an email, that have at last been active. Oh, sorry, let me get rid of my little Dashlane password protector here. So get rid of that. And let me find those that were last active on my website last year. Okay, so for Rose, your definition is those people that are cold leads I haven't talked to in a year. I would start with this list, and then I would use that 1-2 punch, set them up with a search alert, contact them, let them know, hey, I'm going to start sending you some properties. It's just fun to look at. That would be one strategy or tactic that you can use. So you can use these behaviors to really create some granular lists. Now remember, when you apply the filters, it only captures that filter one time. So you're better off just saving it as a filter. So now you've got a working list. This is a list you can come in and tend to from time to time. So you might want to call this one your P&A with no search alerts. And if you want to pin it to the top, you just click, turn the toggle on, and it's going to create that shortcut button. If you don't, and you save the filter, it doesn't create a list up here at the top, but it is still accessible right here in this drop-down list. So you can see here, if I go to the bottom, there's my P&As with no search alerts. And it's based on all that criteria. Look at me, I don't have anybody on that list. That means that there's, first of all, I only have about 25 leads in here, but the idea is to keep the list short, right? You want to work through that list and set those leads up so that they are getting that high value content. So make sure that you have those saved filters. You know, the save filters are also really great because they become custom lists on your app so that you can use them as phone lists. So if you, if you're doing a part of your lead CPR includes, just trying to call these people occasionally, create a save filter of those folks by phone number so that you can access those lists on the go. Okay. So understanding the basics of how those business analytics work, and the other ones that are on here, let's go back to business analytics. So I go back here to KV Core Activity. These are some other filters that you can easily create. You can create one for folks that don't have market reports, and then make sure that you're setting up those leads on a regular basis so that you're trying to keep these numbers down, right? You're trying to keep these numbers down. And over time, the correlation should be these numbers are going down and your lead engagements are going up. This is why it's always a good idea to measure these over time, because that's going to help you really define what your cold lead list looks like. Okay, so using hashtags as a way to take people on and off that list, that might be another strategy as well. So I created a save filter, those P&As that have no search alerts, that have no market reports, no active campaigns. Maybe you just do a really simple one where it's just your all your leads that were last active in the last year, or or that have based on any number of their other behaviors that are on here. Maybe just those folks that are subscribed to text messages. Really create the filters that work for you and what your definition is. I think that those leads that have had no contact, I would start by setting them up on automations. That would be the one thing that it'll help maybe weed through that list as well. So you can definitely use those save filters. Start with those folks that have asked a question or requested a showing based on their activity. Anybody who's got a next call scheduled. These are great ways to start creating some lists of your own. Save them so that they become save filters up here at the top. So let's talk about really what are some tactics that you can use. Now there's There's definitely lots of icebreaker conversation starters that are out there, but it's always a good idea to break whatever your re-engagement tactic is into a series. It's going to be a series of messages or communications. So it could be an email, it could be a text message, it could be a combination of both. Maybe it's an email, a text, and then maybe there's a task reminder for yourself to go and do a pop by. You know, maybe you've got your own strategy, but even just a series of 3 to 4 emails to try and re-engage them, create a series that works for you. And there's a couple of ways that you can do that. One of them might be highlighting some new benefits. Right now, we are definitely in a changing market, right? So that's a great place to start. So highlight some new things that are happening in the real estate market. Don't just send it in one big wall of text email, break it into a series of 3 to 4 short messages, short emails. Maybe you even curate it into a blog, and then you include that blog link in your email. This is where you can really get fun and creative using the blogging tool. A lot of people don't know that there is a blogging tool in your website. So you can go here to WebIDX, and you can use the blogging tool. I love the blogging tool because, number one, I think it's a great way to increase your SEO. Anytime that you're adding new, fresh content to your website, increases that SEO value. SEO is just simply your search engine optimization. It's really just your internet popularity rating, right? So blogging is really helpful. So if you have a series of 3 to 4 high value new messages that you want to send out, repurpose it in an email series as well as a blog. So when you add blogs, you can absolutely create those, and you can create them and use them so that they post immediately. But did you know you can also schedule them in advance? So maybe your tactic is to schedule a series of blogs that go out over the course of 3 or 4 days. And then you invite somebody to start watching or catching your blog posts. That's something else to do, is to consider sending out a mass email to everybody after you've done a blogging series and invite them to come and check out your new blog. That would be a great way to push out and repurpose that information. So that's something you could do, is using a blog to create a series. Add some FOMO, that fear of missing out. Of course, you want to do that in a friendly way, right? You know, a lot of people in this market are, you know, they're a little unsure. The interest rates are going up. It's creating a lot of anticipation in the market. People are waiting for prices to come down. And that fear of missing out on the best deal, that could be your strategy to lead in for that series of conversations. You know, create a series of communications that go out that create that friendly FOMO. Nothing beats telling a story. I think that telling a story, maybe it's your story, maybe this is your way to get their foot in the door, is to create a 3 to 4 email or email and text series that's a story about you and your local experiences. People like to hear that about you. That creates that authenticity that helps you create those connections and those re-engagements. So, you know, create a story and create that atmosphere, create that personal connection, and send that out in an email. That makes for a great blog series as well. Play around with their emotions a little bit. I think that this is something that can be really fun and really easy to do with the advanced email template editor. So when you're creating advanced email templates, you can absolutely recreate something like this. Hey, it's been a while. And then put your high value content and create a button that links them over to maybe your blog post. This would be a great way to introduce your story that you want to tell them. You know, check out my blog today. You know, play around with the emotions. I love, you know, puppy dogs and kitties and all that stuff. So this would be a fun thing to do for me. But, you know, do what speaks with you, but don't hesitate to, you know, use that in a tactic. For those of you that don't know how to do and use the advanced email editor, you're going to go down to the marketing section right here in marketing, and you're going to go into the smart campaigns where you manage your campaigns. And in the templates, this is where you're going to go and create an email template. This is also, you know, there's other templates you can create. So when you're creating this series of 3 to 4 emails or or text messages or call reminders. Maybe that's your strategy. You're going to send one email, one text message, one call reminder for yourself to pick up the phone and call them, and maybe one task to go do a pop by, drop something off on their front door. You could create four separate templates, and then you could, in combination, use those in a smart campaign. Apply that smart campaign to all of your cold leads so that you now have it automated for you. Now you're putting things on wash, rinse, repeat. So if we start with the email, then you're just going to go over here to add a template. Now, you can always create one from scratch, or you can search our template library. So if you want to just kind of get familiar with the content that we have all sorts of things. We have, I think, let's see, what's coming up? We've got a Halloween. I'm sure we've got a Halloween template that you could use. So maybe you might want to modify one of these. So you can easily go in. Now you can always create one from scratch. Just go to add template and start with a basic email. But I personally think that it's easier to edit than it is to create from scratch. So I would probably choose to clone something that's out there and also get your creative juices going. So when you clone this, this is an advanced email editor. Now, this is an advanced email. It's not using a basic email template because it is, those basic ones are really just reserved for texting, or excuse me, for emailing basic information. I always like to use those when I'm doing just short, simple emails, but I like using the advanced email editor because you can do fun things like this. It lines up with our sad puppy dog, right? But this is a fun email to send. You know, you could certainly, I mean, obviously you could just use this one as is, but if you want to make changes, this is super easy to do because it's really based on a foundation of building blocks. And so when you're adding in content, you literally just add in the element that you want to use and then add the content into that. So if I wanted to create a button in here, maybe a button to a list, a button over to my blog, I could add that, drag it and drop it right here. And then I can make changes to it. So right now the button is, it's really just a fancy hyperlink is what it is. That's what those buttons are. And you can change the buttons around. You can change the text around. You can change the font. You can really have a lot of fun with this as long as you understand some of the basics. One of them is, for example, with these hyperlinks is that they do have to link to something. So if you wanted to use maybe your blog, for example, put the link to your blog right here. Put a link over to a custom page that you have. Maybe that's where your story starts, is a link on your to your bio. A link to a custom page that has a list of all the neighborhoods that you focus on in your area. A link to you know, fixer-uppers or other high-value content, new construction, things like that. Add your URL here, and you can play around with this and really, you know, change it to match your branding experience, because there's definitely things you can change. If you know your hex colors or your hex codes, you can add those in here. So you can change the color of the button. You can change the text color in here. You know, you can change the alignment of it. All of these things are very easy to do. And if you really want to take a deep dive on this, we actually have a course in the learning portal that'll walk you through exactly how to use all of the features in the advanced email editor. If you do want to preview it and you want to see what it looks like as a user, you can preview it from here. But what it does is it doesn't give you really the entire well, this one did a good job of it, but sometimes they don't always give you the everything in here, like, because it doesn't, for example, like these merge tags, I want to see what my email signature is going to look like here. So this builds it out with all the merge tags still in place. So if you really want to see what exactly it's going to look like, send a test version of it to yourself. It's going to send it to the email that's in your email profile, and that way you can actually see what these look like to your users and your contacts. So it's a great way to do it. You can check it out and see what it looks like both on how it's going to view mobilely as well as via desktop. So this is definitely something that I would use, especially for when I'm trying to create re-engagement type emails. I would go in and create some templates in here. Once you've cloned the template, then now you've made a copy of it yourself. It will actually update the existing template name. It's made a duplicate copy of it, and that's why it drops in the word copy. So if you want to change the name of it, you might want to throw in your name in here or your initials. It just makes finding them a little bit easier in there. So I might put Kelly Bajarski, or, just Kelly's version, holiday email, something like that. Remember, your subject is the subject that's going to go out in that email. Something to keep in mind, a little pro tip here, is that if you switch to the basic editor, it doesn't save your changes. So you could lose your content. So be careful when you're switching back and forth. Okay, so that would be a good tool to use in this tactic to create some really nice visually appealing type re-engagements. The thing about sending these series out, it's always a good idea to think about, what's the content look like. So maybe add an incentive, a special, offer, one-of-a-kind content. Maybe you want to offer them a free ebook. That's what your series is about, is, hey, I'm, creating some new, some tools for all of my very best clients and contacts. I thought of you. And whether you're in the market or not right now, it's always good to stay up to speed on what's going on in your area. And so creating that one-of-a-kind content that's been personally created or crafted for this individual, that can create a sense of obligation for them. Who doesn't want to turn down something that's one of a kind, right? If all else fails, reinforce your own value. Remember, these people came to your website, you got them as a lead somewhere, somehow. They took an effort to sign up on your list in the first place. So they probably have at least some interest in what you have to offer. So whether you're reinforcing your own value or highlighting any new values that you have, maybe offer some new information, some new listings that are coming out, maybe new construction, something that's, something that's a little bit unique that they may not otherwise get. That's all about making sure that you're sending out high value content. Couple of pro tips. I think that leveraging all the tools in KV Core is going to really help you to keep leads from slipping through the cracks. So I'm a personal believer in leveraging all the behavioral automations. And I also don't believe in deleting a lead. Now, at the beginning of this session, we talked about, hey, it's successful whether you get an engagement or whether you don't, because if you don't, at least you can clean up your list better, right? Now, some people like cleaning up means deleting, and I understand that. People would rather just have a clean list of people in their database of people that they want to focus on. But let me show you why I don't delete people, okay? I don't delete people because I firmly believe, and I personally experienced this, where I have had leads that have told me to go pound sand, take me off your list, I'm not interested. And then interestingly enough, a month later, 2 months later, a year later, somehow they sneak back onto my website or they get back in front of me again. And I'm always really pleasantly surprised to see when that happens. But if I had deleted that contact, when you delete a contact, remember that removes everything. That removes their history, that removes where they came from, the original source, any original properties they looked at, all that investigative discovery. So if I deleted Mary McTester here rather than archiving her, I'm literally just removing her completely out of my database. And if that's for you, go for it. You just go right here to more actions and you can delete your contacts from here. Just delete that person. I personally believe in archiving that lead because archive, you'll notice it's not on the client journey. It's not one of the actual statuses that we have in the client journey. It's kind of a hidden category. It's a hidden status. And by archiving somebody, it just shuts everything down and it puts them nice and neatly tucked away. All that data remains preserved. But if they resurface, and if you've got your marketing automations running, and in marketing right here under behavioral automation, if you're using the behavioral alerts and you have archive turned on, your system is going to be working for you 24/7 so that if somebody who was archived comes back and revisits your website after 14 days, maybe visit your website 5 times in the last week, viewed 5 properties in the last day, or starts exhibiting some behavioral alerts, then I can sleep soundly at night knowing that my system is now trying to reach out to them too. Because by default, we're going to try and text them first, right? Why? Because, well, we get a better response with text messages, right? And if you want to take a look at what these behaviorals are, after 14 days, if that archive lead comes back, this message is going to go out. Hey, so-and-so, first name, that's a merge tag. Thanks for visiting our site. Are you focused on any specific areas or property types? Now, this in and of itself is great. I probably would go in and personalize that one so I can edit it. And it works just like your basic email editor. You can go in and edit that message. I'd probably say something like, thanks for coming back. Thanks for coming back. We missed you while you were gone. We missed you. And, I like to, pep up some of my things, but I do want to keep it short and simple. So definitely going to use this one instead. So you can definitely change and modify these if you want. But now I know that if my leads do come back after having been radio silent or not having engaged, and the other thing it does, by the way, is the archived status will, if they start returning and they become active again, it takes them out of archived and it moves them over to active lead. How cool is that? And you may actually have a smart campaign that's specifically designed for your active leads. Maybe it's the default active campaign. Now, those leads that were radio silent, that were archived, that somehow started coming back to life, they're being moved out of archived and into active lead. So Ayla, I hope I said that correctly. How does the archive button work again? Where is that? So I would use it archived. If somebody tells me to go pound sand, take me off your list. I don't want to hear from you ever again. Lose my number. Those people get archived. Okay, those are the people that are archived. Or if you truly believe that there's no life left in them, and your first instinct is to delete them, you don't have to. So you can go to the Smart CRM, and I think it's also a mass action. So let me see here. Yeah, you can do it in bulk. So if you decide, hey, you know what, my list is just way too long, I want to clean it up somehow, and you use a filter and create a filter and you want to archive them in bulk, you can do that here. Or maybe you just take a quick glance down your list and you're like, you know what, I haven't heard from Mary McTester. She told me to go pound sand. Nick Jonas says he's not ready to buy right now. I just want to clean up my database. I'm going to go in here and I can do it one at a time, or I can select them from the Smart CRM filters and I can go to more actions and I can archive those contacts. Yeah. You can delete and merge. Sure you can, Rose. You can go in here. This is everything in more actions you can do in bulk. So you can mass delete people, you can mass export. When you merge a lead, merging a lead is a little bit different. So like if I go into Mary McTester here and I go over to the more actions that's individual in their contact record, this is where I would go to merge that contact. So I would go to merge and then I would choose who I want to merge them with. Maybe there's another Mary McTester in here. I could go find that lead that's in here. There aren't any results, but if there was, it would pull up here. I would select them and I would merge them from here. Good questions. Move to a pond is a little different. That's a whole nother tactic for another webinar, but I'll tell you, since you asked, I'll share with you what that is, Michelle. What a pond is, see these little save filters up here at the top that have these little water droplets on them? This means that I've been invited into a pond. And if you're an agent that is part of a brokerage using KV Core, maybe you're on a team and you're using the team add-on, or maybe you are maybe you're a broker yourself, I don't know. But you can create ponds as an admin, a team admin, or as an office admin. You can create office ponds or team ponds, which are kind of a great way to keep a holding tank of leads. This is a great place to start with cold leads. So if I happen to have any admins on the line and you have a whole list of company leads that you consider are cold leads that need some lead CPR, or these are all radio silent or dead leads, you know what, don't delete them. Don't even archive them. Put them in a pond, create a pond, and then add agents to that pond so that agents can go fishing in that pond. They can actually go in and assign, they can select leads out of that pond, and they'll be assigned to them. Or if you're an admin, you can assign them directly to an agent from a pond. Now, keep in mind, this is an admin feature. So if you don't see any of these little water droplets on your own CRM, it's because either your brokerage or your admins are not using ponds, or you're not part of a pond. So just keep that in mind. But if you think, hey, that's a cool thing, I wonder if our company has any leads to share, maybe they'd want to create a pond. There's a whole There's a whole article, really great article in the support center that talks about ponds. I'm not an admin, as you can see here. I'm Kelly, the agent today. So I do not have the ability to create a pond. Let's see if I have any leads in this pond. Let's see what's in Christian's pond. Well, let's see. I'm going to try and find one that has some leads in it because this is a test account. So sometimes we have some and sometimes, oh, here's one. Okay, so in this pond, Christina's company pond, this pond is a pond that has a couple test leads in here. And if they were claimed by somebody, looks like Marielle claimed this one, so I can't, but this one hasn't been claimed, which means that I can go in as an agent because I've been invited into that pond, and I can go in and I can claim that contact. I can claim that contact from that pond, which means that I now become the assigned agent. It's a company lead that I've been able to claim. So I know that wasn't exactly the topic of conversation, but since you asked, I thought I would answer. So that's what I wanted to share with you about my experiences with cold leads. Now I'd like to hear from you all. What are some of the tactics and some of the strategies that you use to kind of revive some leads in your database? And we had a couple more people join us. Catherine, I am so sorry. I just don't seem to be able to unmute your microphone, but I'm going to go to the audience. So how about Sam Patel, are you there? Can you turn on your microphone? Let's chat for a second. Do you have any cold leads that you may be looking to revive and re-engage? And I'm not sure if Sam may be multitasking, so I'm going to go straight up the list. How about Ryan? Catherine, you got your microphone going. Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Hey, well, nice to see you. I saw you trying. I saw you trying. Catherine, do you have a list of cold leads that need some jump starting?
I have some that don't respond, but I keep working on them.
That's right.
But I do have everybody on a search.
Okay.
So I've done all that.
Awesome.
But it looks like there's other ways I need to work on that.
Well, I tell you what, I have a philosophy. It's been ingrained in me since day one of real estate. You keep calling, you keep texting, you keep emailing until they buy, die, or fall off the face of the earth. That's what I do.
Yep.
You always keep calling. So again, there's a lot of benefits, a lot of ways to do it real quickly. Once if you want to do that 1-2 punch and maybe start with something, maybe you've got a new listing and you want to just try and reach out to those folks that maybe don't have search alerts. That would be a great introduction to them, is to go in and create that filter: prospects, new leads, active leads. Maybe you start with those that don't have search alerts, pull those folks up and use the mass communications, use the 1-2 punch, click select all. Now remember, when you click select all, it's only going to pull up the number of people that you have by rows. So now my default, because this is a little demo dashboard, it only allows me to pull up 10 people per page. So if I have a list of 100 leads in here, well, you guessed it, I'm going to have 10 pages of leads that I have to do this each time. But yours, each one of you should see up to 250. So when you're using the mass text or the mass email, make sure that you have your default rows. I would probably do it about 100 at a time. So whenever I do send out a mass email and a mass text, I usually choose about 100 at a time, and usually about 100 a day. Because if I have about 500 leads, number one, if I sent out 500 text messages, on average, I don't know, what if I got 10% of those people to respond back? That's 50 people texting me all at once. Okay, that's not good. You know what I mean? I'm easily overwhelmed. My kids tell me all the time, Mom, you can't walk and chew gum at the same time. How would you respond to 50 people all at once? So breaking it into bite-sized pieces, like 100 leads at a time per day. And so change it to 100, click the select all button, pull up that first 100 leads, and then mass email them and go in and send them something. Maybe you've created a really fun advanced email template, that Halloween one that we did. Maybe you start with that one. Pull up your email and send it to them. Okay. And then now here's the other thing. When I send an email, and it works the same way if you do an email or a text, this will get you a much higher result. If you go in and send that email and then you send a text message, and the text message is usually something like this: dear so-and-so, or hey so-and-so, because it's a text, we want to be a little bit more informal. Hey, now to use merge tags, remember you hold the shift key down and then that I don't know what this is called, but it's the key that's right next to the letter P, like Paul, on your keyboard, that little fancy bracket, that pulls up all the merge tags when you're texting. So if I wanted to make, because this is a mass, I'm sending it out to 100 people, right? But I want it to look personalized. So I want it to say, hey, lead first name. I just sent you an email and it's got, and then give them a teaser, give them, a little bit of information about it. It's got some great stuff. It's got something you're not going to want to miss. I want to make sure you get it. So I wanted to send you a text as well, something like that. I always do that to let them know it's coming. That'll increase your deliverability and your open rate, because most people are in the back of their head when they get to their email are going to go, oh, that's right, this person texted me that they were going to send me this. And I do the same thing when I send a text message out. If it's got something like, hey, I just wanted to let you know I've got it. Maybe it's you're introducing your smart number. I've got a new work number. I just want to make sure you had it in case you get a text from this number. It's just me, Kelly. It's not spam. I would go send that same information in an email, but I would put a lot more content in there about all my contact details. Hey, I know I sent you a text. I wanted to make sure you had all my contact information. Has anything on your end changed? I'm updating my database. And then I would give them all my contact information, then throw something fun in there for them to look at. Add a button that has a list of, $1 million mansions in their neighborhood, something like that. Send them something fun, but give them a teaser by sending it out in a text and then followed up with an email. That 1-2 punch is going to increase your deliverability and open rate too, as well. When people know it's coming, it seems a little bit more authentic. That's a great way to use the mass tools as well. And if you want to turbocharge it, if you've got that core video and you are sending a video message, this is also a really great tool to use, because it shows your authenticity, because you're sending video messages out. Anytime you can send a video message out is it's just a great way to personalize your content. So I highly, if you have any budgeting dollars coming up, this is where I would put it. But even if you don't, you can still try it out, because every agent, every user in KV Core gets 10 free core video messages that you can use just to try it out. It works as a single use in an email. You can't send it in a text with the basic package, but you still get 10 free email that you can use with video. So make sure you use those, because they don't roll over. You're going to lose them at the end of the month. So try those out. Give that a whirl. All right, well, that's what I've got for you guys today. So let me check and see what questions have come in, because again, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Question from Michael: if they unsubscribe, does it delete them so I do not re-engage and get in trouble with spam? It archives them. Yeah, it'll archive them. So it doesn't delete them. Only you delete them. We don't delete your leads. Alaya, what does the archive button do? We did that one. Aaliyah, good. I'm glad I didn't slaughter your name. I hope I didn't. One quick overview of how to use the mass email. Aaliyah, did we cover that, using the mass email? I didn't catch your question, but I did go through it. I want to make sure that you feel pretty good about how to do that. Feel free to unmute if you've got a microphone. We'll make sure I got everything that you needed to know. Okay, silence is acceptance. Oh, there you are. Hey, Aaliyah.
I just was wanted to ask, like, I know you went over the how to send mass emails, and I just wanted to ask if you could show us just one more time.
Sure. Okay, so you're going to choose, always be selective with your list. So go to the Smart CRM, and now when you're in the filters, if you've already got a filter there, there may be a little button next to it that says clear the filters. If you're starting from fresh, I always encourage you to clear the filters. Otherwise, sometimes they get sticky and it will keep that previously stored filter. So if you do see a clear filter button here, just make sure you clear. So you're going to use the filters. Maybe choose that list of folks that you want to reach out to, your prospects, new leads, and active leads. Maybe those that don't have search alerts. And you're going to send them out manually, or you're going to send them something fun to look at. And then you're going to start sending them up on search alerts. So then you're going to click this little select all button right here. Pro tip, make sure that you have it set to the number of people that you want to select by page, because by default, it will only pull up that number. So in this example, I have 19 contacts and it's only showing the first 10. Okay, so I have 2 pages that I would have to do this. I'd have to run through this exercise on the next page as well. So I'm going to go to select all. And then I'm going to click on mass email. One more time. I'm going to click on mass email right here. I'm either going to create a brand new email right here because I can write it from scratch. I can switch over to that advanced email editor, create a fun and fancy email, or I can pull a template that has already been pre-created. Remember how I told you throwing your initials there really makes it easy to find yours? See, those are some ones I've already created. So when I go to look for the ones that I created, I always throw my initials in them because it narrows them down. Oh, look, there it is. There's my Halloween one that I just made. Makes it a lot easier. So you can create your emails this way. And then you're just going to click that send button. All right. Oh my gosh, I can't believe an hour has already flown by. I think I got to all of the questions. If I didn't, now's your time. Turn on your microphone, chat away. Rose, did you learn something new today? How'd we do?
I found it extremely helpful and lots of ideas of what I want to do.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. My name is Kelly Bajarski. I am the Director of Training here at Inside Real Estate. So it's always my pleasure to be able to hop on and share some tips and tricks and an open Q&A. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and hopefully we'll see you on the next webinar. I believe we're meeting up again next Tuesday, so feel free to join us then. Thanks, everybody. Now hop off this webinar. It's time to go sell a house. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.